Hello, assalamu alaikum, good morning, khushamdi, ji ayanu, goeiemorgen, Jumma Mubarak.
Bakhair Agile, Ni Hao, Tuna Shumme, Washmale, Ohio Gonzaimas, Guten Morgen, Ola, Boyor, Privyet, Kaifahal, Hale Shuma Chatore, Ahlan Vasalan, Marhaba, Buna, Mucho, Gracias, Swabiab, Balli Gareaya, Washmale, and thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for tuning into PETB Boil. Today it happens to be Friday, so Jumma Mubarak. With me, I have the very amazing, the very lovely, the very superb Shiza Hashmi, and me, myself, Shazad Ehsan Khan. Hello, Shiza. How are you doing on a fine Friday morning over here in Islamabad on 2nd of October 2020?
Doing absolutely great. Thank you for asking. I feel like the spirits are a little bit lifted since we are, of course, entering into a weekend.
Yep.
So I think we have a scale of the week.
Yeah.
So from Monday on, we do love our work, of course, but I feel like from Monday we are a little lazy, and Tuesday seems a little better, and from Wednesday again, with the spirits are lifted because then again we're into the weekend. But that's
Yeah.
just what I believe. What about you?
Well, I think every day is a good day. For me, I look forward to working as well. And, while you were saying all of this, I think, at the back of your head, you even knew that, okay, people are going to judge you for what you're going to say.
I know, but a
yes.
lot of people really don't like. So here's the thing: ever since I was not doing this job, since I was a student or doing any other kind of thing, I did not like Mondays or generally just going into the week. But well, Alhamdulillah for everything, we enjoy doing
but
this,
yeah,
right?
there's no way you can actually skip a Monday too as well, ladies and gentlemen. There's no way you can skip a Friday. So yeah, the morals are definitely a little more higher on Fridays as well. And it's because of the fact that people actually think about rejuvenating, going to different places, and making sure that that they're going to have fun and relax and live their life as well. And I think that that's the message today as well, ladies and gentlemen. Please make sure, since post-COVID, we have seen that that people we've actually been requesting a lot of people to follow all the SOPs. So if you're going outside, please make sure that you follow all the SOPs as well, and please don't litter. Just yesterday, I was actually passing by a food market and I could see peels or all over the place, and I was like, okay, if you go to a fish market, that's what you're going to see, fish everywhere. But obviously they put everything in a container. It's not just lying on the road out there as well. So I think for everybody who's out there, please make sure that you don't litter and you follow all the SOPs as well. Wear your mask, keep your sanitizers with you, because you never know when things can get serious, and we really do not want another wave. I need to go back to the gym. I need to keep on going to the gym as well. I cannot, in fact, the country cannot afford another lockdown.
Definitely.
So please make sure, ladies and gentlemen, that you play an important role in making sure that we do not experience the second wave of COVID-19.
Well, really hope we don't, although some of the cases, of course, have been reported. Lately, the number is going up. But like Shazad said, we can really control it. So please, everyone watching out there, be responsible.
Exactly.
So here's the thing. Again, we are on your TV screens like every other morning with these pink ribbons. And if you watched our show yesterday, you know that for the next few days, for the next few weeks, we are going to be observing Pinktober, which happens to be the entire month of October dedicated towards raising awareness about breast cancer.
Exactly.
Now, breast cancer is the most common cancer among women worldwide also, but in Pakistan as well. And you told me yesterday that about 40,000 women annually alone in Pakistan die of breast cancer.
Exactly.
This is just I want to say, a staggering statistics, Shazad.
Exactly.
It's really hard. But one more thing, it's not only women who are affected by breast cancer, right?
Yes.
In some cases, men also develop breast cancer. And I was in conversation with the guest that we're shortly going to introduce, and he mentioned that he himself had 12 or more cases of men developing breast cancer, and he had to treat them. So I think as important as our discussion is going to be for females, it is even equally important for men, first of all for themselves, and then second of all to be aware and educated for the females around them.
Exactly. Not just that, ladies and gentlemen, I think I would like to appreciate our channel head, Mr. Mazood Beg Saab, as well, because it's his vision. And from the previous month, he was like that, we really need to be more focused on it as well, because within the South Asian countries, ladies and gentlemen, Pakistan has got the highest rate of breast cancer, or in men's case, I think it's chest cancer as well. But ladies and gentlemen, I think what we really need to do is that we really need to speak about prevention, because yesterday that's what we built up on as well. And this year the theme is becoming a better you, which says, or which entails about, or which talks about how you can actually reduce the chances of getting breast or chest cancer by 40% by just, kind of picking up on healthy habits. And how to do so is something which we wanted to talk about. And yesterday, since we were joined by the CEO of Pink Ribbon, so we couldn't ask him, sort of medical questions or questions about oncology, because he happens to be one of those people who was raising awareness. So today we've actually got our hands onto a very wonderful and apt guest who will be speaking about this particular issue. but 1 out of every 9 women, ladies and gentlemen, are going to get breast cancer, unfortunately. Prevention is the key. Becoming a better you is the key. Adopting to a healthy lifestyle is the key. That's what we say. Well, let's see whether Dr. Saab is actually going to agree to it or not. So, ladies and gentlemen, without any further ado, very quickly before I introduce our guest as well, it is each and every individual's responsibility to spread the word, and it's because of the fact that, ladies and gentlemen, we cannot afford to lose our mothers, sisters, nieces, popos, and khalas as well, because they have given us a wonderful childhood, one. Number two, they have been looking after us like nobody else can. So I think that for all those brothers and fathers, whoever's out there, we, one, obviously have to be the support system, and we need to make sure that it's not stigmatized and not tabooed to talk about breast cancer, chest cancer in that case as well.
Brilliant.
So ladies and gentlemen, very quickly, we're very lucky that we've actually been joined by somebody who happens to be the consultant medical oncologist at Shaukat Khanum Cancer Hospital as well. He is Dr. Hassan Shahriyar. Hello, assalamu alaikum, good morning.
Ji, walaikum assalam. Thank you very much for having me on your show, and thank you for showing commitment to this great cause.
Thank you very much,
love
sir,
doing
and
that,
it's
and
wonderful to have you as well. Thank you very much for taking our time and coming all the way to Islamabad from Lahore as well. The pleasure is all ours as well. First of all, the very basic question which I need to ask is how important it is for a country like Pakistan to spread awareness on such an issue or a disease.
Yeah, I think it's a very pressing issue when it comes to cancer. This is the most commonest cancer in women, and it also exceeds by far the number of cancer that we see altogether.
All right.
So breast cancer should be on the top of our priority from a cancer treatment and prevention standpoint. You mentioned some of the statistics that 1 in 9 women will develop a cancer over a period of a lifetime. I think probably the statistics are even graver in Pakistan. It probably the number is less. I mean, these numbers are extrapolated from the Western data.
All right.
Okay.
And I think from what we are seeing at our institutions, we are seeing a much younger population coming to us. So I suspect that the incidence of cancer, unfortunately, is higher in women in Pakistan.
But,
So
thank you very much, sir, for correcting me over here as well, where you said that the numbers are more grave as well. But for me, I think it was alarming to know that, within the South Asian subcontinent as well, Pakistan has got the largest and the highest number as well. Right. But there's one more thing, and that is that we still, till date, we do not have a national cancer registry as well, where we're not sure of how many people are actually affected by cancer itself. So how do you think that, don't you think that it is a bigger and a griever problem to not even have a registry where we do not even know the data, we do not know what to do as well? Because, for whatever we are going to forecast, obviously it needs to be based on those statistics. So where are we? Are we in the air only, or we like, okay, shooting
and it's
stars?
not just about cancer. We don't have any medical records at all to speak of.
Right. Yeah. I think you have hit the real core issue, and I think this was also being discussed yesterday at the presidential ceremony where we were raising awareness about cancer. And one of the main I think points was that we need to have a national cancer registry where we can accumulate all the data and come out with actual figures which represent our population. At Shaukat Khanum we have a regional effort to develop that registry called Punjab Cancer Registry, which is the largest registry in Pakistan. We've already initiated the Northwest Cancer Registry, which includes KPK and Gilgit-Baltistan, Azad Kashmir area as well.
Amazing.
So the efforts are underway. But as our Dr. Faisal Sultan was also alluding to, that we see some hesitation from institution and collaboration in sharing their data with us. So I think we need some legislation of some sort where it will be mandatory that all the institutions who are reporting cancer, they report to a registry.
It's very confusing though, like why would some institution, but I think that's going to get political, so let's not go there. But sir, okay, so now we have to talk, we're all about awareness, right? So let's begin with the causes that might lead to developing the cancer at some stage in life. We know a few, we'll ask them and you do a yes and no and then add on if you know. So is it early menopause or early menstruation? You can answer it after the end, of course. And then is it it something to do with the lifestyle? Is it the food you eat? Is it alcohol consumption? Is it being heavyweight in each and every single thing that we've heard of? Is it true? And then if we're missing something, let us know.
Right. I think these are all the risk factors. So the answer is yes.
Right.
They all contribute some to your risk of developing a cancer.
Okay.
Having a risk factor does not mean that you will for sure develop a cancer.
You can
but-
prevent it.
Right. You can prevent it.
Okay.
Or your genes or your body, if you have a healthy body, it will take care of those risk factors or overcome those risk factors. But your every risk factor that you have, it adds to the chance of developing a cancer.
Okay.
So we need to minimize all these modifiable risk factors. I would just like to extend your
Yes, please.
discussion by saying that there are certain modifiable risk factors and there are unmodifiable risk factors.
Okay.
For example, our gender, we can't change that. Our family history, we can't change that. So those are the things that we have to deal with. But still, I feel there are a lot of things we can do to prevent, especially by focusing on these modifiable risk factors, such as lifestyle,
Right.
smoking, alcohol. These things can be, obesity, for example. That's I think it's a very important risk factor that is sometimes not highlighted as much.
Right. Before we move on, just I want you to elaborate on this point actually. So here's the thing: we're talking about Pakistani women generally, right now, and we know our society. So if I were to look at Pakistani women who consume alcohol or who smoke, hardly 1% or even less.
Right.
So what might be the risk factors in this particular region that are leading to such a large number of women developing
Right.
cancer?
Yeah, I think luckily we don't have that much high prevalence of those type of risk
Right,
factors in
right.
our population. I think that's absolutely correct. However, I think we do have obesity issues, we have lifestyle issues, we have dietary issues, and also again the data is not there, but environmental pollutants and
Okay.
toxins can also contribute to many cancers, not just breast cancer.
Oh.
So all of those things need to be looked at from an individual and from a community perspective.
All right.
Certain things you can do as an individual, but I think a larger scale effort on a community level would be needed to improve.
Exactly.
our-
And adding on to the risk factor side, do you think that stress or anxiety can actually be one of the risk factors as well in this particular case?
Right. I mean, stress is oftentimes used as probable cause, but it's not truly scientifically proven that it
Okay.
has a very direct correlation
Yeah.
as we see with smoking or obesity. But stress does lower your immune system, especially if it's a chronic stress, and that lowering of your immune system could lead to some type of a
So
issue.
it can happen.
Right.
Because over here we know, for example, we might not tend to agree, but obviously, it is a male-dominated society, and then people do have stresses, there are financial stresses. There are so many different sorts of stresses. I mean, we live in a country where the food's not organic, the first part. So I think that is one of the risk factors as well. But very quickly, since we are talking about prevention this year around, and prevention reduces the risk by 40%, I still remember, I think our school did a great job that when we were in school, our teachers would actually tell us which areas to touch and check whether there's a lump or not. So why can't we have such awareness campaigns? Why can't we still, till date, not speak about it? What are the early symptoms? What kind of differences are we going to feel in our body? And then, how can we prevent having breast cancer total?
Right. Just to add, sorry, I always add something to your question. I think this year around, I came across the campaign of Shaukat Khanum. This was all the female celebrities who were asking people to actually, self-analyze or self-detect if there's a tumor. Also, is this a myth that if you have been exposed to radiations or X-rays throughout your life, is that a risk actually?
Right, radiation is a risk factor, but it depends on the dose of radiation that
Okay.
was received. So just an X-ray, chest X-ray is not
Once in your life doesn't
right,
matter.
it's not sufficient enough to cause a cancer.
Okay,
But somebody who had, say, another cancer and they received a lot of radiation to this area for the treatment, they are at risk later on in their life to develop breast cancer. Or, if there was any radiation incident or accident, like a nuclear reactor, which luckily we
haven't been exposed to.
Right.
thankfully.
So those type of radiations can certainly increase your risk for breast
All right.
cancer.
Okay.
And
now
coming back to my
Shazad's
question now.
Right. So you were talking about how we can prevent and what are the early signs.
And before we do that, we do not have organic food here usually.
Right. Yes. Well, we traditionally used to have organic food.
Sorry.
Before, our regular food used to be organic food, right?
Yeah.
Till
Used to be.
It used to be, right? Till we got into this more processed food, and which is rich in trans fats, and those are the foods that you need to avoid.
Okay.
So switching more to a vegetarian diet or a healthy, meat-based diet would be, I think, essential.
Yeah.
And again, it has to be, balanced between fruits, vegetables, and meat.
Exactly, and I think that we actually need to talk about how the food is being cooked as well, because eventually if we are cooking broccoli and it looks like this, the flower of the broccoli, eventually when we'll cook it, it'll look like this. It'll be drenched in oil.
I thought it's supposed to be like that.
So we have a lot of, yeah, because, ever since we grew up, I think that's how we have eaten it,
True.
but there's another way of eating it, and we see it in the West as well, how they have this habit of eating raw vegetables and fruits, and how we are far, far away from it. Nihari on Sundays, and chane and parathe and puri and pature and
Right.
all of that. And since you're from
Yeah.
Lahore too as well, so
Right.
speak about it.
Yeah, absolutely. I share the same concerns as you do, that we have a very diet rich in fats and not the healthiest of these oils. And then that's a risk factor for not just breast cancer, but also heart disease and stroke and all the other things. So we definitely need to move away from those diets, or maybe make it as infrequent as possible. Just reserve it for some special day, I guess.
Yeah.
But focus more on eating raw vegetables and salads and fruits. And the other aspect is also the exercise. We need to be more physically active. You mentioned that you're missing out on your gym.
Well, not now. When it was COVID times, everything was
Right.
in lockdown.
Yes,
yeah.
we were all indoors, and rightly so.
Yeah.
But yeah, we need to get back up and going, and we need to develop some physical activity routine. It should be part of our routine. So again, the recommendations are again very broad in general. But 30 minutes of aerobic exercise 3 to 4 times a week is something you must.
I think that
focus
this
on.
can be one of those reasons as well why Pakistan among South Asian countries is the highest rate of breast cancer, that women over here do not work out. And or fortunately or unfortunately, I think that they really do not get that environment where they could actually work out as well. Shiza, do you work out?
Yeah, I mean, okay, this is such a spotlight moment. Here's the thing, not regularly, but I'm going to speak on behalf of all the married Pakistani women, in generic. I think when you're talking about 24 hours in the kitchen, or jhadu pocha, or fixing your bed, or just looking after things, that is workout for them. Cut them some slack. But yes, I think we need to have a proper
Right.
workout. But
That's no workout, man.
Shahzad,
After
we
jhadu
can-
pocha, they have backbone problems, they have thigh problems, muscle problems,
But
and
that's
whatnot.
the problem.
That's not the poster to work out, na. That's what it is.
But we can't call them lazy, or just sitting on the bed being a couch potato. That's not true. That's what I'm saying.
That's something I never said.
Yeah. Okay.
I think you need to look at the waist size. The
Yeah.
body height and body weight should be balanced.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's one way to look at your whether you are appropriately physically active or not.
Yeah, and that's one thing I would love to comment on as well. Before marriage, I think everybody's just perfect looking, good looking, fitting in clothes and whatnot. As soon as you see, a girl's getting married, after the first baby, the girl has lost it all. And she's just over there at home, not working out, making sure that, I've got a baby to look after. I mean, I think everybody needs to look into themselves and make sure that they're not making an excuse to themselves. So, ladies and gentlemen, I mean, I won't land anywhere good if I'm going to lie to my own self. Oh, you know what? I've worked hard for so long. I think it's my time to just take some rest. It is actually the destiny which you've reached through your working hard, and now it is your time to work more harder so that you can actually have another destiny to yourself.
Right.
But yeah,
I
very
have a
quickly,
question.
yeah, go ahead if you have a question.
I do have a question. Right, so we were talking about prevention, but now let's talk about treatment in case, God forbid, someone is going through it or has developed the cancer. What are the possible options? Is it always surgery? Should we always ask for surgery? What is the safest option? And then a lot of people are really paranoid about the side effects of the treatment they will be getting. Let's talk about it.
Right. Yeah. So the treatment of cancer is multidisciplinary. So it's a teamwork. So typically, a cancer specialist a team of cancer specialists will consist of a surgical oncologist who does the surgery, a medical oncologist who offers all the systemic therapies, and then the radiation oncologist who delivers radiotherapy. Now, the treatment depends on the stage and the type of breast cancer that you
Right.
have. So, for example, a stage 1 patient may just get a pill
Okay.
for the treatment and a small surgery. A stage 3 patient may get a very extensive surgery, chemotherapy, hormone therapy, radiotherapy, the whole 9 yards.
Right.
So, and then also, when I say about type of breast cancer, we know that there are 3 or 4 different types of breast cancer. So even if you have the same stage, you could have a different type of breast cancer that requires different type of drugs,
treatment, okay.
medicines.
Yeah.
So your duration of treatment could vary according to that. It could be up to 1 year to maybe like 4 months. So again, that needs to be hashed out with your oncologist. It's a very case by case basis. I can't give you a very generic
Yeah, I know.
answer.
Of course.
But it's a team effort with 2 or 3 different oncologists working together and each delivering their part of the treatment. Coming
Side
to your the side effect question. So I think that's quite real. I wouldn't diminish the importance that some of our patients go through significant side effects. So that's where you need to have a very good discussion and relationship with your oncologist. You give feedback about the treatment effects that you're experiencing,
All right.
and the treatment can be modified a little bit just to make it easier for you. And the oncologist will also discuss the risks and benefits involved with the modification of therapy.
Right, and it's always good for the patient to know what might be coming in the future, good or bad, right?
Right, yeah, so we always inform our patients of all the possible side effects, especially the commonest one that they're
Right,
most
right.
likely to experience. And we discuss the management of those side effects. So, for example, if somebody's having nausea and vomiting, there are medicines also provided to cater to those side effects as well.
Okay.
So you have an easier time going through that. And also, I think the support groups, they help with the psychosocial aspect of
Yes.
dealing with the trauma of, being diagnosed with this disease and, how it changes your life.
Absolutely.
So there are resources available to help you manage these side effects and get through this.
I think that's wonderful and that's very reassuring as well. But if we are to look in terms of percentage, how many people do recover from breast cancer if they reach to the doctor in time?
Right, so that again varies by the stage of the disease that you are diagnosed at, and that's where it's critical that we diagnose it early as possible. So stage 1 patients, about 99 to 95% will
Wow.
be cured.
Mashallah.
Stage 2, about I would say 70 to 80%. Stage 3 is about 50%, and stage 4 is about 10 to 16%.
All right.
So these stages are there to provide you a prognosis, and the prognosis gets worse as the cancer gets more advanced, and that's why all our focus is on detecting it early, and being aware of the signs and symptoms, and being able to access those services if you have
Exactly.
any symptoms.
And usually what I've witnessed is that that women obviously when they're going through chemotherapy and surgery, they obviously the social dilemma you talked about as well, and how the society is going to accept them, and that's something which is for real as well. People do get upset.
Yeah.
And then, do you think that there's oral chemotherapy available in some cases of breast cancer as well?
Yes, absolutely. Certain drugs come in oral formulation and some come in intravenous.
Yeah.
So depending on what your doctor feels is the best option for you, they will go according to that. It's a shared decision making at some level. Some patients may not want hair loss, for example.
Right.
So you could discuss with the doctor if there's any medicine which they could prefer or is available that will lead to less likelihood of hair loss, for example.
Exactly.
So options are there, yeah. So there are oral
Yeah,
medicines.
so the only reason why I asked you about oral medication or oral chemotherapy was that I happen to know a few people who actually, not very regularly, but quite oftenly, they do miss out on their oral chemotherapies because they are on
Yes.
themselves, and they have to decide it for themselves as well, and just at times they just forget on their medication.
Right.
So how lethal or how important it can be or how dangerous it can be for anybody to miss out on their medication?
Yeah, and my question is actually it's very similar to this as well.
Sure.
So, Dr. Hassan, I'm pretty sure you must have come across such people because I have from certain villages. So they are diagnosed with cancer some stage, whatever it may be, but they're not willing to be treated. And they, now I'm not questioning their belief system, but I have heard this. they take it as something from the divine, and they have to live with it. So, of course, is it from your end, being the doctor, is it a patient's choice to be treated or not? And in case someone says we don't want to be treated, what do you do in that case?
Right. I think that's a very complicated question because it
Right.
involves belief systems
course.
and as a doctor, I have to give my best opinion based on the evidence that we have.
But you can't force them after
But
all.
obviously, we don't force any treatment on any patient. However, if we feel that somebody's in denial, then we have resources like psychological services to help them overcome that denial. And maybe with those efforts, they will be more likely to get the treatment that would benefit them. But yes, to your question, yes, we do not force any treatment on any person. Everybody has this right of autonomy to choose. But again, not coming from a very religious perspective, but even my understanding is that even in our religion, seeking
Help for a
medicine
medical condition, yes.
right is actually recommended. So I wouldn't think that the belief system should necessarily
Yes.
obstruct that access.
And how dangerous missing out on or oral chemotherapy
Right.
dose?
So that's a very common scenario that I run into. Patients are not very compliant with their medication, especially if these are longer-term medications. So we do routinely ask them that have they been taking their medicine regularly? Have they missed out on their medicine recently? Again, it's education of the patient, reinforcement, discussing things again and again about the importance of taking the medicine. If they have any particular issues with that medicine, we discuss those issues and then try to address them. The efficacy is obviously reduced if you're not taking your medicine, right?
Exactly.
So I think that's.
And one last thing before we wrap up this segment, and that is that, obviously since we are talking about breast cancer, don't you think that we need more women in colleges coming into this field as well, so that women are more comfortable talking about the kind of problems they're facing?
Yes.
Absolutely. I think that's a social aspect of our culture, and I think it's really embarrassing that we are missing out on a lot of women who could have been saved if they were caught early or if they sought out help early. I see a lot of people from rural areas which come to our hospital, and they have these type of issues that they sat on their tumors for too long, and whether there's hesitation or their priorities were different. So they're more advanced and the outcomes are not as good. So yeah, I think the women and also the other society, we need to lead this effort that if this awareness about breast cancer and early detection should be on the top of our priority.
Exactly.
Right,
Thank you very
most
much, Dr. Saab,
definitely.
for being with us. It was lovely to be in conversation. Thank you very much for highlighting the core issues, making sure that we know about the risks involved as well, and how to actually prevent having breast cancer as well. Ladies and gentlemen, it's going to feel like a lump, and if you feel like one, just go to the doctor, rush to the doctor. The treatments are available, as Dr. Saab said. If you're on stage 1, there's 99 to 95% chance that you'll be good to go and you'll have a great life as well. So please make sure that you catch it within the first % or 10% of the disease as well. I think that everybody can do that. All you have to do is just touch yourself early in the morning whenever you're in the shower or wherever. If you feel that there's something wrong, just rush to the doctor.
Most definitely, because of course that is the first step. We pray and hope that everyone who is going through such a situation or has developed the condition or breast cancer specifically, we really hope the process gets easier for you. We hope and pray that you come out of it stronger and you don't have to deal with it anymore. And for everyone else out there, please be very careful of the lifestyle that you're adopting, because we really don't want to end up in that position.
Yeah.
Well, stay tuned, because in the next segment we are going to wrap up this week in a very fun style. Stay tuned to find out. Good morning.
Good morning. Good.
Sitar is a plucked stringed instrument used in Pakistani classical music. The instrument flourished under the Mughal Empire. Sitar is named after a Persian word, setar, meaning three strings. It derives its distinctive timbre and resonance from sympathetic strings, bridge design, a long hollow neck, and a gourd-shaped resonance chamber. There are many popular modern styles of sitar, offered in a variety of substyles and decorative patterns.
Welcome back to World This Morning, ladies and gentlemen, with the very energetic Shahzad Khan and Shahzad Hashmi. So today happens to be a very important day for all the Pakistani art lovers or cinema lovers out there. And why is that so?
All right, so ladies and gentlemen, today, obviously we do miss him. He's
Legend.
I mean, I think that there needs to be a word beyond legend as well. I think he's one of those people who actually gave recognition or brought recognition for the Pakistani cinema as well. He was one of those people who in the first phase of the development of Pakistani cinema was recognized as the chocolate hero, and later on the term was coined for actors across the borders as well. He was one of those people who actually always made sure to promote Pakistani cinema and Pakistani culture. He was an actor, he was a producer, he was a writer. We have more on this as well. But today, ladies and gentlemen, it happens to be the happy birthday of the legendary star, chocolate hero, Mr. Waheed Murad Saab, the heartthrob of entire Pakistan and the entire subcontinent, who brought in recognition in a way that, the people just kept on asking, even if it was Dilip Kumar Saab from across the border,
Right.
he would appreciate his work. And we were going to talk about him. We have a look-alike of him over here in the studios. We are going to pay rich tribute to him because we need to celebrate art, we need to celebrate artists, and we need to celebrate all of those keepers of the art as well. So ladies and gentlemen, here's a small tribute to Mr. Waheed Murad Saab. He was born in 1938 and he died in 1983. Please go ahead, take a look at this. So, ladies and gentlemen, Waheed Murad Saab was a Pakistani film actor, producer, and scriptwriter, famous for his charming expressions, attractive personality, tender voice, and unusual talent for acting.
And he actually did his first film, or actually his debut, was in the film Saathi when he was just 21 years old. And his full-time film career actually began in 1962 with the film Aulad, where, of course, when there was no stopping after that, he
Exactly.
became very popular and very widely loved as well.
Shiza, he even produced the film Heera Aur Patthar in 1964, in which he appeared in a leading role for the first time. He became the leading figure of film industry after a series of commercially successful films during 1964 to 1971. But the best part, his naughty facial gestures, romanticism, and alluring performance style during picturization of songs made him immensely popular and controversial at the same time.
Controversial, yeah, maybe yes, but a lot of women and a lot of men from that era that I know are extremely fond of him. And one of his biggest successful films is Arman, which was also produced by him, and it made a pivotal impact on the subcontinental film industry. And I think ever since then, Pakistani film industry has had an identity of its own as well, right?
Yes, exactly. Exactly, and not just that, I think after that, he was one of those gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, who actually introduced Zeba ji as the heroine of the subcontinent as well in the film Jaag Utha Insaan as well. And I think whatever we're going to say is not going to be up to the mark of
It's never
the kind
going to
of actor
suffice.
he was, and you know, the kind of legend he was as well. But today is the day when we are actually remembering him, ladies and gentlemen, for the kind of services he's rendered for Pakistani cinema and the kind of recognition he brought in for Pakistan just by his acting skills, because he was famous all over the globe wherever Pakistani cinema was being introduced back then as well.
And other than, of course, film awards, he also received a national honor. And I think it was a posthumous one. It was after he passed away as well. But, I mean, it's legends like him, it's heroes like him that we need to celebrate and remember. Thus, we're doing that with, like Shahzad mentioned, a lookalike we have over here in the studio.
And very quickly, before we move on to the lookalike, ladies and gentlemen, he even was awarded with 2 Nigar Awards as well. And he had 2 daughters and 1 son. One daughter passed away in infancy as well. And even till date, ladies and gentlemen, for all of those actors or people who actually want to be actors, they actually have to see his films, watch the kind of work he's done, and then kind of want to reflect onto that as well. Because since then, after Waheed Murad Sahab, Pakistani industry has been unable to find a chocolate hero. Do you think that there's anybody who can refer to be as chocolate hero in today's time?
Not that I'm calling him one, but I know that 2008 and onwards, Fawad Khan was called the chocolate hero.
Yeah.
But does he look like Waheed Murad? I don't know what the reason was.
Well, the reason is that obviously he looks good as well, and
Of
you know
course.
he can do good romantic projects as well.
Yeah.
But very quickly, ladies and gentlemen, another Waheed Murad Sahab in the making as well. He happens to be a singer. He will be actually singing songs, paying rich tribute to Waheed Murad Sahab as well. He is the one and only Mr. Hussain Ali. Hello, Assalamu Alaikum. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
I'm doing great.
I just want to say, Alhamdulillah, I'm fine, and thank you for such a great introduction.
Thank you very much, and it's
It's our
wonderful to
pleasure.
have you. I think you should always be thankful to your parents for bringing you in this life in the first place, and then you being look-alike of Waheed Murad Sahab. I think that's a great compliment for anybody, and that's a compliment I probably can. I'm not going to say it because I think it's going to go other way as well. But just somebody telling me that you look like Waheed Murad Sahab, I think it's just going to make my life, not even my day. It's going to make my life as well. So, what are you going to sing today?
Let's have it.
Let's
Okay,
have it. All
let's
right,
have
please
it.
go ahead. गाने का नाम तो बता दो. कौन सा गाना गाओगे?
Or is-
अकेले ना जाना.
अकेले ना जाना.
Nice.
अकेले ना.
And for everyone watching out there, ladies and gentlemen, we're not actually wasting his time as a student. He has to go to his college right after the show, and he's taking a test too.
Exactly.
All
And
right.
thinking of this song, अकेले ना जाना. Yeah. Okay. Go ahead, and then I'll share my story afterwards.
Right.
अकेले न जाना, अकेले न जाना, हमें छोड़ कर तुम्हारे बिना हम भला क्या जिएंगे। अकेले न जाना, हमें छोड़ कर तुम्हारे बिना भला क्या जिएंगे। अकेले न जाना। दिया हौसला जिसने जीने का हमको, वो एक खूबसूरत सा एहसास हो दो जो मिटती नहीं दिल से, तुम वो यकीन हो हमेशा जो रहती है वो आस हो दो। ये सोचा है हमने कि अब जिंदगी भर तुम्हारी मोहब्बत को सजदा करेंगे। अकेले न जाना। फसाना जो उल्फत का छेड़ा है तुमने, बिछड़ के ज़माने से पाया है तुमको, कहीं साथ तुम भी ना अब छोड़ देना, यही है तमन्ना, यही इल्तिजा है, और इसके सिवा हम भला क्या कहेंगे, अकेले न जाना हमें छोड़ कर तुम, तुम्हारे बिना हम भला क्या जिएंगे, अकेले न जाना.
Amazing as always. And you know, this is, if I'm not wrong, I think this was sung by Ahmed Rashti Saab.
Exactly.
And it was his voice that matched with Wahid Murad Saab's voice so much that I think Wahid Murad Saab said himself that he's so comfortable performing onto his songs because it felt like his voice.
Exactly.
Now, you tell me first of all. So, for students or for children, I don't want to call you children, for young men like your age, they're either listening to Cardi B, they're listening to The Weeknd, they're listening to Drake, Flana, Flana, Flana. How come you're into Wahid Murad and his art?
Actually, my grandmother is huge fan of Wahid Murad.
Oh, cute.
Because of her, I used to prepare songs of Wahid Murad to dedicate those songs on her wedding anniversaries
Oh,
and
that's
on
so
her
sweet.
birthday as a gift.
Wow.
And even I have performed Wahid Murad songs in my school functions as well.
Wow.
And appreciated a lot by parents.
So how do you feel when people tell you that you're a lookalike of Wahid Murad Saab?
Very happy.
Very happy. Well, that's great. But you know, then you know, I had a story to share when we were
Yes.
about to sing this song as well, Akele Na Jana, Hame Chhod Kar Tum. Ladies and gentlemen, I think everybody's got a story in his or her life as well.
Yeah.
When we say Akele Na Jana, Hame Chhod Kar Tum, I still remember the day. So my grandfather never allowed us to listen to all of those pop rock songs and whatsoever we were listening to.
Okay.
So every now and then, if we have to travel with our grandfather, he will actually have a cassette with him where there'll be songs of Wahid Murad Saab, and we had to bear with all of those songs as well. And then eventually, you know, when you know we kind of started to travel together quite a lot, I was actually in love with these songs. And then children of my age would be like, you know, what kind of songs are you listening? I was like, you know, this is what I like. And even till date, I listen to such songs, such remixes
Wow.
with the same lyrics, even in the gym while I'm working out. Imagine. Akele. So I think it was wonderful. Yeah.
I think, you know, Shahzad, such stories actually take you back in time as
Yeah.
well. And, you know, parents, because it was their choice, they loved Qawwaliyan. And even in my case, my dad would
Yeah.
listen to, you know, Mehdi Hassan Saab as well, along with songs that were, of course, performed by Wahid Murad Saab. But they sort of grew onto us.
Yep.
Like you said earlier, we were not really accepting them. But I think after listening to them once or twice, we were in secret, you know, or probably when we were alone, we were humming the tunes as well. And I think now that we're grown up, we absolutely admire the art that we sort of missed up on as we were children. I think you don't really understand.
Exactly, and you know, Shiza, at the same time, you know, I would actually recommend the Generation Z to actually watch these films as well, where you
Yeah.
mention about Aulad or Arman or Jag Utha Insan,
Yes.
and you know, kind of learn about your legendary artists and people who've actually been the keeper of art as well,
Yeah.
and people who've acted beyond, you know, our imagination as well and beyond our expectations, because there were no kind of you know, training academies and institutes that one could have gone to even back in those days. Even now, you know, there's a dearth of institutes, but we do have one or two institutes all over. So
Okay.
people doing such wonderful work, I think, were recognized beyond borders, and the love shared with them was different as well. So you know, I was lucky enough to that I was in conversation with one of the director who has worked with Madam Noor Jahan as well, and Sir as well. So you know, he used to say that, you know, back in those days, you know, Murad Saab and, you know, Madam Noor Jahan, you know, wherever they would go, you know, there will be huge amount of people, you know, who will surround them, even if it would have been a petrol station that they have stopped on to fueling their car. But I think that this is something which we need to work on now, because these days I think our politicians are the stars and the actors are
exactly.
actually struggling these days as well. So I think that the television channels need to give more time to these actors, people who perform for other people as well, rather than giving it all to the politicians as well, because I think we need to work on this as well, and
Yes, I
it's a
agree.
bigger industry where we need to tap onto it as well. So, ladies and gentlemen, it was our humble kind of
Take on this.
take on this as well, and we want everybody to cherish their artist and enjoy them and enjoy the work they have done for us.
Right, and Shazad, what we absolutely love doing as our job is, remembering all these legendary heroes, as we already mentioned, because it breaks my heart, it shatters my heart to see the heroes that were in our childhood now not being recognized or not being respected or not being, well, famous for that matter. It really breaks my heart. So we're doing our responsibility. You as Pakistani should definitely, first of all, listen to his songs or watch his work or watch his performance, and you will definitely adore that as well. Which one is your favorite work of his? Let us know on our Facebook page with the name of
World This Morning.
On Twitter,
World This Morning without a G.
on YouTube.
On YouTube, it's PT World, and then you look for the most viewed English morning show, which is World This Morning.
Yes,
Shukran,
Alhamdulillah. And the repeat of this show you can catch at.
We'll be at 5 past midnight, ladies and gentlemen. It happens to be Friday. Please make sure that you remember each and every member of our team, our cameraman, our audio artists as well, our engineers back in the MCR, our producers, our guests for that matter as well, and Hussain as well. So Hussain, thank you very much for being with us. It was lovely to have you. So we have signed off, and now it's your job to actually wrap it up for us. So you're going to sing another song, another rich tribute to Wahid Murad Sahab, ladies and gentlemen. Please take a listen. Good morning, have fun, and if you're going out, make sure to follow all the SOPs.
Yes. Take it away.
No, no.
बेताब हो उधर तुम, बेचैन है इधर हम, पल पल गुजरता जाए नादानियों का मौसम। बेताब हो उधर तुम, बेचैन है इधर हम, पल पल गुजरता जाए नादानियों का मौसम। तुम सामने हो फिर भी दिल का जब है आलम, तुम सामने हो फिर भी दिल का जब है आलम। सातों के सुर है बोझल, धड़कन की लह मधम, धीरे से मुस्कुरा दो ये बेगली दागम। बेताब हो उधर तुम, बेचैन है इधर हम, पल पल गुजरता जाए नादानियों का मौसम। बनकर हवा का झोंका जुल्फों को चूम लेता, बनकर हवा का झोंका जुल्फों को चूम लेता। एक सुरमई फजा में